Hey guys, tonight we are going to become one of ancient Rome's most revered and feared figures, a Vestal Virgin. This isn't just a history lesson, it's a full immersion. You're about to experience the immense privilege, the crushing responsibility, and the terrifying psychological weight of being the living symbol of Rome's purity. It's a life of luxury, VIP seats at the Colosseum, and unique legal powers. But make one tiny slip up, and, well, you're not making it to episode 2. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're at it, I love seeing where you're all listening from. Go ahead and drop your city and the current time in the comments below. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The air in your family's home, your domus, is warm and familiar. It smells of baked bread from the kitchens and the faint, sweet scent of the olive oil burning in the lamps. You are 6, maybe 7 years old. The sounds are the music of your childhood, the distant clatter of pots, the rhythmic thud of your mother's loom from the other room, the cheerful chirping of caged birds in the peristyle garden. You're sitting on the cool mosaic floor of the atrium, playing with a set of carved knuckle bones, their polished surfaces smooth against your small fingers. This is your world. It is safe, predictable, and entirely yours. Then comes a knock on the great wooden door. It's a formal, heavy sound, not the familiar rap of a family friend or a merchant. The household falls silent. Your father, a man whose presence usually fills the entire house with authority, straightens his tunic and wears an expression you've never seen before, a mixture of profound respect and nervous tension. A slave hurries to open the door, and standing on your threshold is a figure who seems to radiate an almost blinding importance. It is the Pontifex Maximus, the chief high priest of Rome, flanked by his allicitors, attendants who carry the ceremonial bundles of rods that symbolize his power. He doesn't need to announce his purpose. His very presence is the announcement. He is here to select a new Vestal Virgin. Rome's sacred flame needs a new guardian, and he is here to claim one. Your father ushers him in, his voice low and deferential. The priest's eyes, ancient and discerning, scan the room. He looks at you, at your older sister, at your younger one. You are all of patrician blood, from a good family, with both parents still living. These are the prerequisites. The selection is meant to be by lot, a choice made by the gods. But everyone knows politics and prestige play their part. Historians still argue about the true emotions swirling in that room. For your father, this is an unimaginable honor, a chance to elevate your family's name into the annals of Roman piety for generations. But for your mother, who stands silently by the wall, her hands clasped so tightly her knuckles are white, is that a tear glistening at the corner of her eye, or just a trick of the lamplight? The loss of a daughter, even to the gods, is still a loss. The Pontifex Maximus steps towards you. He gently takes your chin in his hand, tilting your head up. He inspects you not as a child, but as a potential vessel for the divine. One of the lesser known but strict requirements is that a candidate must be free of any physical blemish or speech impediment. You must be perfect, an unblemished offering. You hold your breath, not understanding the full weight of this moment, but sensing its crushing gravity. He seems satisfied. He then produces a small wooden tablet. Your name is on it. He speaks, his voice calm but absolute, using a phrase that is both an invitation and a legal decree. Tamara, te capio, he says. Beloved, I take you. It's a formula, ancient and unchangeable. With those 3 words, your life is cleaved in two. You are no longer your father's daughter, under his patria potestas, his paternal power. You now belong to the goddess Vesta, and by extension, to the state of Rome itself. You are being taken. It sounds almost gentle, beloved, but it is an act of acquisition. You look from the priest's solemn face to your father's, which is alight with a kind of holy pride. You look to your mother, and you see the flicker of a sob she quickly stifles. The knuckle bones fall from your lap and scatter across the mosaic floor. suddenly looking like the toys of a stranger. The priest holds out his hand. You place your small, trembling hand in his. His grip is firm, not unkind, but it is the grip of destiny as he leads you towards the door. You look back one last time at the warm, familiar atrium, the scent of bread, the sound of the loom. That world is already fading, becoming a memory. You are walking out of your childhood and into a life of sacred duty. A 30-year vow you don't even have the words to comprehend. The heavy door closes behind you, and the sounds of your home are gone forever. You are being led through the streets of Rome, your hand still engulfed by the Pontifex Max, immersive formal grip. The journey isn't long, but it feels like crossing an ocean. You walk from your quiet residential hill, down towards the bustling heart of the city, the Roman Forum. The noise of the Forum is a roar, a chaotic symphony of merchants hawking their wares, politicians debating loudly on the steps of a basilica, and the rumble of wagon wheels on the stone-paved streets. For the first time, you are not just a child in the crowd. You are the spectacle. People stop and stare. They point, not with malice, but with a sudden, hushed reverence. They see the Pontifex Maximus, and then they see you, a small girl in a simple tunic. Then they understand. They nudge their companions, their faces a mixture of awe and pity. You are now a public figure, a tiny, walking good luck charm for the entire city. You keep your eyes fixed on the worn leather of your sandals, one foot in front of the other, trying to block out the overwhelming sensory input. But you can't. The smells of street food, sweat, and incense mingle in the air. You feel a strange mix of fear and importance, a combination no child should have to process. Finally, you arrive at the edge of the Forum, before a grand and imposing complex of buildings. This is the Temple of Vestal. Attached to it, the Atrium Vestae, the house of the Vestal Virgin. Your new home. It's nothing like your family's domus, where your home was private and warm. This place is public, grand, and feels sterile. It's an institution. You are led into a large, colonnade courtyard. A rectangular pool shimmers in the center, reflecting the sky. All around the courtyard are statues on pedestals. You later learn these are monuments to former Chief Vestalis, a silent, stone audience to your new life. You are taken into a smaller, more private room. Waiting there is a woman who exudes an aura of authority, even greater than your mother's. This is the Vestalis Maxima, the Chief Vestal. She is older, her face a mask of serene discipline, and she will be your new guide, your teacher, your warden. The main ritual of your induction, your inauguration, is about to begin. The Pontifex Maximus places his hands on your head and recites a long prayer, his voice echoing slightly in the stone chamber. You don't understand all the words, but you catch phrases about purity, service, and the goddess Vesta. Then, the Vestal Maximus steps forward. She holds a pair of gleaming bronze shears. This is the moment of separation. The cutting of your hair is the most potent symbol of your transition. It's a ritual severing of your connection to your past, to your family, to your own childhood identity. The shears are cold against your neck. You flinch, but a steady hand from one of the other priests holds your shoulder. You close your eyes as you hear the soft, rhythmic snip, snip, snip. You feel the weight of your long braids, lovingly plaited by your mother this very morning, fall away, one by one. They drop to the floor until your head feels unnaturally light. The cool air of the room on your newly exposed necks sends a shiver down your spine. Your hair, the hair of a freeborn Roman girl, is carefully gathered. It will not be discarded. This is where a fascinating and slightly strange piece of Roman tradition comes in. Your shorn locks will be taken and hung as an offering upon a specific, ancient tree, a sacred lotus tree, the Lotus Cupidita, which was said to have been growing in Rome for centuries. By hanging your hair on this tree, you are ritually dedicating your girlhood to the gods. Historians still debate the precise emotional tone of this ceremony. Was it perceived by the Romans as a purely sacred and honorable moment, a joyful dedication, or was there an undercurrent of sadness, an acknowledged grief for the life the child was leaving behind? For you, In this moment, it is simply bewildering. You are too young to grasp the theology, but old enough to feel the loss. You are no longer the girl you were an hour ago. After the ritual is complete, you are dressed in the Vestal's traditional garments, a long, white woolen tunic, a special headdress called the infula with its cascading ribbons, and a white veil, the Sufi biuum. You look down at yourself. A miniature version of the imposing Vestal is Maxima. You are led to a small, starkly furnished room, a cubiculum, that will be yours. It contains a simple bed, a small table, and a single oil lamp. It is clean, functional, and utterly impersonal. Left alone for the first time, you tentatively raise a hand to your head. You feel the short, unfamiliar bristle of your shorn hair. That is the proof. That is the reality. The door to your childhood is not just closed. It has vanished completely. You are now a Vestal, and your 30-year service has begun. The first few days in the Atrium Vestae are a blur of echoing footsteps on stone and hush, formal whispers. Your world has shrunk from the sprawling city of Rome to this single, vast, and dearly quiet complex. The house of the Vestals is a paradox, a prison of immense privilege, a cloister in the heart of the world's most chaotic city. As you begin to explore, you realize it's designed to be a self-contained universe. It's a massive, two-story building arranged around that long, rectangular courtyard you first saw, the peristylium. The courtyard is the lungs of the house. Sunlight streams into it, but the high walls and surrounding colonnades keep the direct, blistering heat of the Roman summer at bay. The constant, gentle splashing of the central fountains becomes the new soundtrack to your life, replacing the lumen, the birdsong of your old home. You walk the covered portico that lines the courtyard, your new sandals silent on the mosaic floors. The statues of the former Chief Vestal are your constant companions. Their marble eyes seem to follow you, their inscriptions boasting of 40, even 60 years of pious service. They are not just decorations, they are expectations cast in stone. You look up at their serene, stern faces and wonder if you will ever feel the certainty they project. Will your statue one day stand here, a silent judge for another small, terrified girl? Your new life is structured around 3 other groups of women. There are the other novices like you, a handful of girls recently taken from their families. You find a strange, unspoken camaraderie with them, a shared sense of dislocation. Then there are the senior Vestals, women in the 2nd decade of their service. They are the active priestesses, the ones who perform the most crucial duties. They move with a quiet confidence that seems impossibly distant to you. Finally, there are the eldest Vestals, those in their final 10 years. They are the tutors, the mentors, the enforcers of the rules. The Vestal is Maxima. The Chief Vestal is the absolute authority over all of you. You discover the house is far more than just bedrooms in the courtyard. There is a large kitchen, run by household slaves, where immense amounts of special food for rituals are prepared. There's a formal dining room, a triclinium, where you all eat together in a specific, hierarchical order. There are bathing facilities, far more luxurious than what most Romans enjoy, with heated water, a sign of the Vestal's immense prestige and state-funded comfort. You also find a tablinum, a kind of formal office for the Vestal is Maxima, and various storerooms holding sacred objects whose purpose you do not yet understand. The entire complex is a meticulously organized machine for producing piety. One of the most curious and debated aspects of the Vestal's home is its permeability. While it was a sacred, enclosed space, it was not entirely cut off from the world. High-ranking Romans, especially women of noble families, could at times be granted access to visit. Historians are still piecing together the exact rules of entry. It wasn't a convent sealed off by an iron gate, but a sacred precinct with very, very strict access control. The back of the complex even abutted the slopes of the Palatine Hill, home to the Emperor's palace. The most powerful man in the world was, quite literally, your next door neighbor. But the true heart of this place is not the grand courtyard or the comfortable baths. It's a building that stands separate but connected. The small, round temple of Vesta. You are not yet permitted to enter the innermost sanctum, but you are brought to its threshold. It's a humble-looking structure from the outside, circular, with a conical roof that has a small opening at the top to let out smoke. It looks ancient, and it is. This, you are told, is not just a temple. It is a symbol of the hearth of every Roman home, and by extension, the eternal hearth of Rome itself. Inside that temple burns the sacred flame, the Ignis Vestae. Your entire 30-year existence will now revolve around that single, flickering fire. As you stand at the temple entrance, a senior Vestal is on duty. She moves with a focused, almost hypnotic grace, tending to the flame. You watch her, mesmerized. The air smells of consecrated wood and something else, something ancient and powerful. You feel a pull towards it, a sense of purpose beginning to crystallize out of your fear and confusion. This is why you are here. Your hair is gone, your family is a memory, and your future is a straight, 30-year line. All of it leads to that flame. The courtyard with its silent statues, the hushed meals, the lessons you are about to begin. It is all in service of ensuring that this one fire never, ever goes out. Your new world has a center, and it is a small, eternal flame. The ceremony is simple but profound. You stand once more before the Pontifex Max Immersion the Vestal Maxima, this time within a more private chamber of the Atrium Vestae. You are no longer a bewildered child being led from her home. You are a novice, robed in white, your shorn hair, the constant reminder of the life you've left behind. Today, you will formally speak the vow, your 30-year commitment, which until now has been a terrifyingly abstract concept, will be made real with your own voice. The Vestal Maxima guides you through it. The words are ancient, a Latin formula, but passed down through generations. You repeat them, your small voice barely a whisper in the grand room. You pledge to serve Vesta, goddess of the hearth, home, and family. You pledge to maintain her sacred fire, and most importantly, you pledge to preserve your chastity, your virginity as, for the full duration of your service, 30 years, 10 years as a student, 10 years as a practitioner, and 10 years as a teacher. The promise feels impossibly large, a mountain you can't see the top of. 30 years. It's a number you can't even properly imagine. It's more than 4 times the life you've lived so far. As you speak the words, the weight of them settles upon you. This isn't like promising your mother you'll be good. This is a sacred contract, a sponsoria, with a goddess and the entire Roman state as witnesses. Breaking it isn't just a personal failing, it's a crime against the gods, an act of treason. You are told in no uncertain terms what the consequences are. If the sacred fire, your primary charge, is ever extinguished through your negligence, the punishment is a severe scourging at the hands of the Pontifex Maximus, conducted in the dark, under a veil, a ritual of utter humiliation. But for breaking your vow of chastity, the punishment is something else entirely. It is a sentence so unique and so horrifying it echoes through Roman history. To be buried alive, you learn the name for this specific crime, incestus. The term is fascinating because it doesn't mean what we think it means today. For the Romans, incestus meant any act that polluted a sacred person or space. Because you are now considered the symbolic daughter of the state, any sexual relationship you might have would be seen as a form of incest against the Roman people. It's a deeply disturbing concept, turning a personal act into a public defilement. The very idea makes your stomach clench. You are just a child, and the weight of this abstract, adult sin is being placed squarely on your small shoulders. The vow, however, is not just about restrictions. The Vestal Maxima also explains, in a gentler tone, the other side of the contract. By making this promise, you are elevated. You are now a sacerdos, a priestess of the state. You will be freed from the patria potestas, the absolute power your father held over you. You are now legally autonomous. You can own property, write your own will, and manage your own finances, rights that no other woman in your family, not even your own mother, possesses. You can testify in court without taking a special oath, because a Vestal's word is considered unimpeachable. You will have a place of honor at public games and religious festivals. You are trading a conventional life for an exceptional one. There's a curious detail about the vow that historians still debate. What happened if a Vestal was chosen against her will? Or if, after a few years, she truly felt she couldn't continue? The historical record is almost silent on this. The assumption is that the honor was so great, and the selection process so rigorous, that this scenario was unthinkable. There seems to have been no opt-out clause. Once the Pontifex Maximii said T. Capio, "I take you," the contract was sealed. It highlights the Roman view of duty, where the needs of the state and the gods completely eclipsed the desires of the individual. You were a cog in a divine machine, and the machine could not afford a broken cog. As the ceremony concludes, you are given a new name, or rather, an honorific title is added to your own. Amata. You are now Amata, Vestal Virgin. The name change solidifies your new identity. You walk out of the chamber, the 30-year promise echoing in your mind. It is a shield and a cage, a source of immense power and of terrifying vulnerability. You look at the older Vestales around you, the women who have lived with this vow for 10, 20 years. You see the discipline etched on their faces, a calmness that seems almost supernatural. Is that what 30 years of this life does to you? Does it forge you into something stronger? Or does it simply wear you down until all that is left is the duty? You don't know the answer, but you know you have 3 decades to find out. Your first 10 years as a Vestal are a relentless education. You are an apprentice, a discipula, and your every waking hour is scheduled, monitored, and dedicated to learning one of the most complex jobs in the Roman world. The romance and mystery of being a Vestal quickly fade, replaced by the mundane reality of rigorous, repetitive training. Your primary tutors are the senior Vestales, women in their 40s who have completed their active service and now dedicate their final decade to passing on their knowledge. Their patience is thin, and their standards are impossibly high. There is no room for childish mistakes or lapses in concentration. Your days start before dawn. You are woken by the sound of a small bell, and your first task is always the same, a ritual ablution, washing your hands and face with water drawn from a sacred spring, not from the city's aqueducts. This water is considered pure, untouched by the profane hands of the public. This daily act reinforces a core concept of your new life. You are separate, clean, and consecrated. The curriculum is daunting. The first and most important lesson is, of course, the tending of the sacred flame. You are not yet allowed to be the primary guardian, but you assist the active Vestales on their watch. You learn everything about the fire. You learn which was considered sacred and pure enough to be burned. Oak is a favorite. You learn how to stack the wood just so, to ensure a slow, steady burn. You learn to read the flame's flicker, to anticipate when it needs more fuel, to recognize the subtle signs that it might be weakening. The fire is a living entity, a demanding, temperamental deity in its own right, and you must learn its language. Then there is the memorization. Your main job is to be a master of ceremonies for Rome's religious life, and this requires you to learn hundreds of prayers, chants, and ritual formulae by heart. The Latin is archaic and difficult, full of words that have fallen out of common use. You spend hours each day reciting these texts, your voice joining the low hum of the other novices, chanting until the words lose their meaning and become pure sound, pure muscle memory. A single misspoken word in a prayer could invalidate an entire ritual, a prospect too horrifying to contemplate. Beyond the prayers, you must learn the actions of ritual. You are taught the precise gestures, the correct way to stand, to bow, to sprinkle sacred flour. You practice these movements endlessly, like a dancer learning a complex choreography. The rituals are for dozens of different festivals throughout the year, from the great public spectacle of the Lupercalia to the private, women-only rites of the Bonadi. Each has its own unique set of rules and procedures. One of the most peculiar and specific tasks you must master is the preparation of mola salsa, or salted flour. This isn't just any flour. It's made from the first ears of spelt wheat harvested each spring. As a novice, you help to grind this wheat between two simple stone querns. Then, this special flour is mixed with salt that has also been prepared in a ritually prescribed way. The resulting coarse, salty flour is one of the most essential ingredients in Roman state sacrifice. A pinch of it would be sprinkled on the head of an animal before it was sacrificed, or on the sacred fire as an offering. It was a substance made by the purest hands in Rome, yours, to purify everything it touched. Historians still marvel at the sheer effort and detail involved in producing something as seemingly simple as a bit of salty flour. It speaks volumes about the Roman obsession with ritual precision. Throughout this education, the psychological pressure is immense. You are living in a house with about a dozen other women, ranging from small girls like yourself to mature women in their 40s. It is a closed, hierarchical society. There is friendship and mentorship, but there is also jealousy, rivalry, and constant, silent judgment. Every action is observed, a lazy recitation, a moment of inattention during a ritual lesson. It is all noticed by the older Vestal lessened, perhaps, by the gods. The idea that a single mistake could bring divine disfavor not just upon you, but upon all of Rune, is drilled into your mind every single day. The weight of the Empire's fortune feels like it's resting on your ability to remember a line from a prayer or to properly stack a log on a fire. Scholars continue to debate how this intense, decade-long indoctrination shaped the minds of these young girls. Did it create devout, serene priestesses, or did it produce women on the verge of a nervous breakdown, terrified of making the slightest error? The truth is likely somewhere in between. For you, it is a process of being broken down and rebuilt. The playful, carefree girl who entered the Atrium Vestae is slowly being erased, replaced by a meticulous, disciplined, and slightly anxious young woman who knows the precise ritual for every occasion and the terrible cost of getting it wrong. After a decade of relentless training, you are no longer a novice. You are now a fully fledged Vestal Virgin, entering the second and most critical phase of your service. This is when the true weight of your responsibility settles in. For the next 10 years, you will be one of the 6 active guardians of the Ignis Vestae, the sacred fire of Rome. This isn't a symbolic duty. It is a real, 24-hour-a-day job with potentially catastrophic consequences. The Temple of Vesta becomes the center of your universe. The small, circular building is off limits to the public, and even to most priests. Its sanctity is absolute. Inside, there is no statue of the goddess, which is highly unusual for a Roman temple. Vesta's presence is not embodied in an idol, but in the living flame itself. The fire burns on a central hearth, day and night, year after year, century after century. It is the eternal heartbeat of Rome. Its continuity is the physical manifestation of the city's permanence. Its aeternitas, your shifts, are meticulously scheduled. You and one other Vestal are on watch at all times. The silence inside the temple is profound, broken only by the soft crackle and hiss of the fire. Your task is simple in theory, but nerve-wracking in practice. Keep the flame alive. You feed it with richly prepared wood, ensuring it never burns to high or sinks to low. You clean the hearth of old ash, a process that must be done with extreme care. The ashes themselves are sacred and are disposed of in a special ceremony. The fear of the flame going out becomes a constant, low-grade hum in the back of your mind. It's more than just a fear of punishment. It's a deep-seated dread of the symbolic meaning. If the fire were to be extinguished, it would be seen as a prodigum, a terrible omen signifying that the gods had withdrawn their favor from Rome. It would mean the pact between the city and the divine was broken. The entire populace would panic. All public business would halt. The city would hold its breath until the flame was ceremonial and painstakingly aureoled, and the Vestal on whose watch the fire went out would face the terrifying consequences. She would be declared polluted. The Pontifex Maximus would take her to a dark, secluded room, strip her of her sacred vestments, and scourge her. This punishment was not just about pain. It was about ritual humiliation. It was a physical cleansing of her failure. Then, the process of relighting the flame would begin. It could not be or eel it from another fire. That would be cheating. The fire had to be reborn, created anew. This was done using a primitive method, friction. The Pontifex would use a special wooden drill, a sort of fireboard, to laboriously create a new spark. This act of creating virgin fire was a powerful symbol of renewal, that it was a renewal born from your failure. The shame would be unbearable. Living with this pressure shapes you. You become hyper-vigilant, attuned to the slightest change in the fire's behavior. You develop an almost obsessive-compulsive focus. This state of mind is perhaps the most overlooked aspect of a Vestal's life. We focus on the vow of chastity, but the psychological toll of being responsible for the city's spiritual well-being, embodied in that one fragile flame, must have been immense. A fascinating but rarely discussed detail is what the Vestals did with the old, burnt-out material from the temple. The charred wooden old ritual implements couldn't just be thrown away. Every year, on June 15th, a ceremony called the S3X Cuando Stercias de la Emphas took place. The name gruesomely translates to when it is permitted to remove the dung, dirt. On this day, the temple was meticulously cleaned, and all the ritual refuse was carefully carried out and ceremonial disposed of, likely thrown into the Tiber River. This annual spring cleaning was a major event, marking the end of one ritual year and the purification of the sacred space for the next. Historians still debate the emotional and psychological state of the Vestals during these long watches. Were they in a state of meditative calm, feeling a profound connection to their goddess, or were they racked with anxiety, every crackle of the fire sending a jolt of panic through them? It was likely a mixture of both. There must have been moments of serene beauty, watching the hypnotic dance of the flames in the dead of night, feeling like the literal center of the Roman world. But there must also have been moments of pure terror, when a sudden draft from the temple's roof opening caused the flame to gutter and sink, your heart stopping for a beat until it flared up again. For 10 years, this is your life, the endless cycle of watchfulness, the quiet intensity of the temple, the ever-present fear of failure, and a profound sense of purpose. You are not just a priestess, you are a living fuse, connected directly to the power source of the entire empire. Your steadiness keeps the lights on for everyone. Your one moment of weakness could plunge Rome into darkness. Life as a Vestal is not all hushed reverence and terrifying responsibility. The vow you took, the life you gave up, comes with a remarkable set of rewards. In a society where women, even those of the highest patrician class, lived under the legal authority of a male relative their entire lives, you are an anomaly. You are powerful, respected, and, in many ways, freer than any other woman in Rome. One of the most visible displays of your status occurs at public spectacles. When you attend the games at the Colosseum or the races at the Circus Maximus, you do not sit with the other women in the upper tiers. Far from the action, you are granted a seat of honor in a special section, alongside the senators and other high-ranking officials. Imagine the scene, the roaring crowds, the dust kicking up from the arena floor, and you, robed in white, a serene and untouchable figure in the midst of the chaos. You are a physical reminder of the city's piety, even at its most raucous entertainments. When your carriage moves through the streets of Rome, it is preceded by a lictor, the same type of attendant who accompanies the highest magistrates. This gives you the right of way. Everyone, merchants, soldiers, even senators in their own litters, must stop and make way for you. To obstruct a Vestal's path is a serious offense. This public reverence translates into very real legal power. As you learn it when you first took your vow, you are free from the patri potestas. You are your own woman. This means you can inherit, own, and manage property and wealth in your own name. Many Vestals came from rich families and, over their 30 years of service, could accumulate significant personal fortunes through inheritances and gifts from the state or pious individuals. You are not a cloistered nun living in poverty. You are a wealthy, independent landowner. This autonomy extends to one of the most significant legal acts a Roman could perform, making a will. A typical Roman woman could not dispose of her own property through a will without the consent of her guardian. You can, at any point during your service, you can draft a will, deciding who will inherit your wealth after your death. This gives you a subtle but significant influence, a tool for patronage and for shaping your family's fortunes even while you are separated from them. Perhaps the most dramatic of your privileges is the power of pardon. It is said that if a condemned criminal, being led to his execution, happened to cross the path of a Vestal Virgin, his life was automatically spared. The encounter had to be proven to be pure chance, an accident of fate. If it was, the sanctity of your person was so great that it was believed the gods themselves had intervened through you, showing mercy. You are a walking, talking get out of jail free card, but one that can only be played by divine providence. One of the more peculiar and less discussed privileges was your role as a safe deposit box for the rich and powerful. The Temple of Vesta and the Atrium Vestae were considered among the most secure locations in Rome, protected not by guards and locks, though they had those too, but by their sheer sanctity. No one would dare to violate the home of the Vestales. Because of this, many prominent Romans, including emperors like Augustus and Tiberius, deposited their wills and other important legal documents with the Vestales for safekeeping. You became the trusted guardian of the city's most sensitive secrets. Imagine the political intrigue and the secrets you would be privy to, not by hearing them, but by holding the sealed tablets that contained them. Historians are still debating the full extent of the Vestales' informal political influence. While officially, you had no role in politics. Your unique position gave you access to the most powerful people in the state. You interacted with senators, consuls, and the emperor himself during religious ceremonies. Your opinion, though never formally sought in the Senate, would have carried immense moral weight. If a Vestal expressed concern about a certain policy or individual, people would listen. You were the moral compass of Rome, and a subtle shift in your direction could have real-world consequences. So, while you live a life of strict discipline and immense pressure, it is also a life of extraordinary privilege. You have traded the traditional path of a Roman woman, marriage, children, and domestic management under the authority of a husband, for a public life of honor, wealth, and legal independence that was the envy of many men. It is a gilded cage, but the cage is placed on a pedestal in the very center of the Roman world, for all to see and admire. You are a living paradox, a symbol of the domestic hearth who never has a family of her own, a figure of female purity who wields more power and autonomy than almost any other woman in the empire. Moving through the streets of Rome is a surreal experience. When you leave the sacred confines of the Atrium Vestae, you step into a different world, but you are not part of it. You are an observer, a spectacle, a walking embodiment of something ancient and untouchable. You travel in a carpton, a covered, two-wheeled carriage, a luxury usually reserved for the most elite matrons. As mentioned, a ally seat or walks before you, clearing a path. The bustling, chaotic life of the city parts for you like water for a ship. The reactions of the people are a study in contrasts. A merchant, in the middle of a loud haggle, will suddenly fall silent, his head bowed in respect as your carriage passes. Legionaries, hardened soldiers back from the frontiers, will stop their boisterous talk and offer a subtle sign of reverence. Mothers will point you out to their children, whispering, "Look, a Vestal Virgin." Be respectful. Their gazes hold a complex mix of awe, for you are a direct conduit to the gods, and pity, for they know the personal sacrifices your role entails. You are a holy object, not quite human. Then there is the other side of that gaze, the undercurrent of suspicion. Your purity is not just your personal virtue. It is a public utility, a guarantee of Rome's good fortune. Therefore, your every move is scrutinized. A smile that lingers a moment too long at a handsome senator, a brief, whispered conversation with a male relative at a family funeral, all of it is noticed, logged, and potentially misinterpreted. You learn to cultivate a public face of serene neutrality, a mask of piety that betrays no emotion. Your posture must be perfect, your gaze modest, your words carefully measured. You are performing the role of Vestal Virgin in every second you are in public. You are a woman moving through a man's world with a unique, invisible shield. In the forum, the center of male political and commercial life, you can walk with a freedom no other woman dares. Men make way for you, avert their eyes. There's a famous story, perhaps apocryphal but telling, about the powerful dictator Sulla being pressured to pardon the young Julius Caesar. He initially refused, but when the Vestal Virgins themselves came to intercede on Caesar's behalf, Sulla relented, remarking that he could not refuse their request. Whether the story is true or not, it illustrates the perception of your power. You operate outside the normal rules of gender and politics. A curious and rarely mentioned aspect of your public life involves your connection to water. Just as the temple fire had to be kept pure, the water used for your rituals had to be drawn from a sacred spring, most famously the spring of the nymph Egeria. It could not be transported through the city's lead pipes, which were seen as artificial and profane. So, one of your duties, or that of the temple servants under your supervision, was the daily transport of this living water in clay vessels, called deficitulia, on their heads. Imagine seeing that procession, a line of women carefully balancing jars of water, walking through the dusty, crowded city, creating a small, moving bubble of sacredness. It was another daily, visible reminder of the constant ritual work required to keep Rome spiritually clean. The psychological effect of this public existence is profound. You have no privacy outside the walls of your home. You belong to the people. This creates a strange sense of detachment. You observe the vibrant life of the city, the lives, the arguments, the commerce, the dirt. As if watching a play, you are present, but you are not a participant. You can never simply get lost in a crowd, never have an anonymous moment. This sense of being perpetually on display, perpetually judged, is one of the heaviest burdens of your office. Historians still debate the degree to which Vestals were really isolated. Was their life as lonely as it seems? The evidence suggests a complex reality. While you were cut off from a normal life, you were at the very center of the city's religious and, by extension, social life. You interacted with the elite. Your family was allowed to visit you on certain occasions, and you lived in a community of other women who understood your unique situation. It wasn't total isolation, but a different kind of existence. A life lived in a parallel social dimension that occasionally intersected with the normal one. For you, walking through the streets of Rome is a constant reminder of this duality. You are both the most revered woman in the city and the most isolated. You are surrounded by a million people, but you are utterly, divinely, and dangerously alone. Your role extends far beyond the quiet tending of a flame. You are a living barometer of the empire's health. The Romans believed in a concept called the Pax Deorum, the peace of the gods. This was a fragile contract. If Rome honored the gods with correct and pious ritual, the gods would, in turn, bless Rome with prosperity, stability, and military victory. You, the Vestal Virgin, are the linchpin of this entire system. Your purity is the ultimate guarantee of that peace. This becomes terrifyingly clear during times of crisis. If a Roman legion is defeated on the frontier, if a plague sweeps through the city's crowded tenements, if an earthquake shakes the hills of Rome, the first question on everyone's lips is not about military strategy or public health. It is, have the gods been offended? And the first place they look for an answer is at you. The collective anxiety empire focuses like a burning glass on the Atrium Vestae. Has a ritual been performed incorrectly? Has the sacred fire flickered? Or, the most dreaded question of all, has a Vestal broken her vow? You feel this pressure in the subtle shifts of the city's mood. The crowds that once looked at you with reverence now have a sharper, more desperate edge to their gaze. The senators who once greeted you with pious respect now look at you with a searching, almost accusatory stare. You become the scapegoat for every misfortune that befalls the state. The weight is immense. It's no longer an abstract theological concept. It's the palpable fear and suspicion of millions of people directed squarely at you and your 5 sisters. During these times, your interactions with the powerful become fraught with tension. The emperor himself might summon the Vestal Maxima to the palace for a private consultation. Imagine the scene. The chief Vestal, a woman of immense moral authority, standing before the most powerful man on earth. Both of them trying to navigate a crisis that is spiraling out of control. He needs a solution, a way to appease the gods and calm the populace. And often, the easiest solution is to find a source of pollution and ritually cleanse it. The easiest target is always a Vestal. This is not a theoretical danger. History is littered with examples. The historian Livy tells of a time when a series of terrifying omens plagued Rome. A Gallic man and a Greek woman were chosen as scapegoats and buried alive in the Forum Boarum. Alongside this, 2 Vestal Virgins were accused of incest and put to death. It was a brutal act of spiritual house cleaning. The state, in its desperation, was willing to sacrifice its most sacred priestess to restore the Pax Derum. A fascinating and often overlooked detail is how an accusation would even start. It rarely came from a jilted lover or an eyewitness. More often, it was born from political intrigue. The Vestales were deeply entwined with Rome's most powerful families. Accusing a Vestal of unchastity was a devastatingly effective way to attack her family's reputation and political standing. A rival senator, wanting to undermine your influential father or brother, could start a rumor. They whisper in the right ear, a carefully planted seed of doubt, and suddenly you are fighting for your life against an accusation that is almost impossible to disprove. How do you prove a negative? How do you prove your lifelong purity against a cleverly crafted lie? The role of the emperor in all this is a subject of ongoing historical debate. As the Pontifex Maximus, the emperor was the ultimate judge in a Vestal's trial. His involvement created a massive conflict of interest. An emperor facing political instability or military defeat had a vested interest in finding a Vestal guilty. Her condemnation and execution would serve as a powerful public spectacle, a demonstration that he was taking action, cleansing the state, and restoring divine order. It was a perfect, if horrific, piece of political theater. Your life could be sacrificed not for a crime you committed, but for the emperor's political expediency. So, you learn to navigate this world of immense power with extreme caution. Every interaction is a calculated risk. You are a pawn in a game played by emperors and senators, but you are the most powerful pawn on the board. Your symbolic value is your greatest asset and your most profound vulnerability. When things are good, you are the jewel of Rome, showered with honors. But when the empire trembles, you are the first sacrifice they consider placing on the altar. Your life is tied to the destiny of Rome in the most literal way possible. If Rome thrives, you are safe. If Rome suffers, your life is in mortal danger. The Atrium Vestae, your home, is supposed to be a sanctuary of peace and piety. But, as the years pass, you learn that its thick stone walls cannot keep out the most corrosive force in Rome, suspicion. The psychological pressure doesn't always come from the emperor or the roaring crowds. Sometimes, the most terrifying threats are the whispers that echo in your own hallways. You live in a closed community of women, a small, insular world where everyone knows everything about everyone else. It is a house of sisters, but it can also be a house of rivals. The whispers start subtly. A glance held a moment too long between 2 of the senior Vestales. A hushed conversation in a corner of the peristyle garden that stops abruptly when you approach. You begin to notice the small cracks in the serene facade of your community. Perhaps one of your sisters seems distracted, her hands trembling slightly as she tends the flame. Perhaps another has become withdrawn and sullen, or conversely, unnaturally cheerful. In this high-stakes environment, any deviation from the norm is a source of anxiety for everyone. You are all watching each other, all the time. It's not necessarily born of malice. It's a survival mechanism. The crime of one Vestal brings ruin upon all of you. If one of your sisters is unchaste, The collective purity of the entire college is compromised. The anger of the gods will not be selective. So, you watch your sisters for their sake, and for your own. Is her piety genuine? Is she performing her duties with the required focus? A constant, silent monitoring creates an atmosphere of suffocating tension. Then, a rumor takes root. It might begin with a slave who claims to have seen something. A visitor who misinterprets a conversation. It spreads through the house like a fever. Let's say the rumor is about Claudia, one of the other Vestales in your decade of service. Suddenly, everything she does is seen through a new lens. Her piety is now interpreted as a clever act to hide her guilt. Her moments of quiet contemplation are seen as evidence of a troubled conscience. The sisterhood fractures. Factions form. Some of you defend her. Others distance themselves, afraid of being tainted by association. The pressure on the accused Vestal is unimaginable. She is trapped. She cannot leave the atrium. She is surrounded by her accusers, her judges, and her frightened sisters 24 hours a day. The very walls of her home become a prison. You see the toll it takes on her, the dark circles under her eyes, the way she jumps at every unexpected sound. Her life becomes a waking nightmare of suspicion. One of the strangest and most chilling details of this process is the role of dreams and omens. The Romans placed immense faith in divination. If you, or another Vestal, had a disturbing dream, say, a dream of the sacred fire turning black or the temple collapsing, it would be reported to the Vestal is Maxima and the Pontifex Maximus. It would be interpreted as a divine sign that something was wrong within the college. A simple nightmare could become a key piece of evidence in a potential trial. The workings of your own subconscious could betray you or your sisters. Historians are still trying to understand the internal dynamics of the Vestal College. The sources, written by men, give us the official view, the public face of the institution. But what was it really like? Was it a supportive female community, standing together against the pressures of the outside world? Or was it a paranoid, high-pressure environment where women were turned against each other by fear and ambition? The truth, as always, is likely a messy combination of both. There must have been deep friendships, bonds forged in the unique crucible of your shared experience, but the system itself was designed to encourage suspicion. You learn to be guarded, to build a wall around your own thoughts and emotions. You perform your duties with flawless precision, not just out of piety, but out of self-preservation. You choose your friends carefully. You learn the art of saying nothing, of projecting an aura of unimpeachable calm, even when your own heart is pounding with anxiety. You realize that the greatest danger is not always the emperor or a foreign army. Sometimes, it's the sister standing next to you at the hearth, the one whose whispered word could be your death sentence. The walls of the Atrium Vestae are meant to protect you from the world, but you soon discover that they also trap you inside with your deepest fears. The silence of the house is no longer peaceful. It's filled with the ghosts of unspoken accusations. Beyond the sacred fire, you are entrusted with the guardianship of something even more secret, something so vital to Rome's survival that its very existence is a matter of state security. Deep within the inner sanctum of the Temple of Vesta, in a sealed, subterranean chamber known as the Penis Vestae, are kept the sacred objects, the Pignora Imperiae, the pledges of empire. These are believed to be the talismans that guarantee Rome's power and invincibility. And no one, except you and your sisters, knows for certain what they are. Access to the penis is forbidden to everyone else, including the Pontifex Maximus. Only the Vestales may enter, and even then, only under the most solemn and ritually pure conditions. The secrecy surrounding these objects is absolute. To speak of them to an outsider would be an act of profound sacrilege and treason. This duty elevates your role from mere keepers of a flame to guardians of the nation's soul. The legend, whispered for centuries, is that these objects were rescued from the burning city of Troy by the hero Aeneas, the mythical founder of the Roman people. He carried them on his long journey to Italy, and they have been protected ever since. The most famous of these talismans is said to be the Palladium, a small, ancient wooden statue of the goddess Pallas Athena. The story goes that as long as the Palladium remained safe within Troy, the city could not fall. The Greek heroes Odysseus and Diomedes had to steal it before they could finally conquer the city. Now, Rome is the new Troy, and you are the guardian of its destiny. But what were these objects? Really, this is one of Roman history's most tantalizing mysteries, and a topic of endless debate among scholars. The ancient sources are deliberately vague and often contradictory. Some say that alongside the Palladium, there were other relics, the ashes of Orestes, the scepter of Priam, the veil of Ilione. The truth is, nobody knows. The secrecy was so successful that it has persisted for 2,000 years. A fascinating theory and a wonderfully weird piece of historical speculation suggests that the secrecy was the point. Some scholars propose that the pinnace might have been empty, or perhaps the objects inside were deliberately swapped out over the centuries, so that even the Vestales themselves were guarding symbols, decoys of the real talismans which were hidden elsewhere. The power of the Pignora Impera lay not in the objects themselves, but in the belief in their existence and their absolute security. By making them a mystery, the Romans created an idea of invincibility that was impossible to disprove or attack. You weren't just guarding a thing, you were guarding a concept. Your duty to protect these objects is as heavy as your duty to the flame. You are a living vault. The knowledge you carry in your head is as precious and dangerous as the relics themselves. Imagine the psychological weight. You hold the key to Rome's ultimate security system. If an enemy of Rome, or a mad emperor, were to try to seize them, you would be the last line of defense. You would be expected to die rather than allow the sanctum to be breached. This secret duty adds another layer to your public persona. When people look at you, they see the keeper of the flame, the symbol of purity, but they don't know the half of it. They don't know that you are also the guardian of a mystery that lies at the very foundation of their world. This knowledge sets you even further apart, wrapping you in an aura of mystique that is both a shield and a burden. It also deepens the bond between you and your sister Vestales. This shared secret, this immense and silent responsibility, is something only you can understand. It creates a trust and an interreliance that transcends the petty rivalries and suspicions of daily life. In the face of this sacred duty, you are not individuals. You are a single, six-headed guardian, a collective entity charged with preserving the magic that holds Rome together. You never speak of it, not even amongst yourselves in casual conversation. The knowledge simply is. It exists in the quiet confidence with which you perform your duties, in the solemnity of your gaze as you approach the temple. It is the ultimate expression of your 30-year vow. You have given up a personal life, a family, and children, to become the mother and protector of Rome's oldest and most powerful secrets. The flame keeps Rome alive day to day, but the objects in your care ensure its life for eternity. While the grand duties of guarding the flame and the Empire's secret pledges define your life, much of your time is consumed by smaller, yet equally vital, ritual tasks. One of the most important and hands-on of these is the creation of mollis alsa, the sacred salted flower. You learned the basics as a novice, but now, as a full priestess, you are responsible for its perfect production. This is not a task you can delegate to slaves. It must be made by your own consecrated hands. The process is a miniature drama of Roman religion, a yearly cycle that connects you to the earth and the seasons. It begins with the harvest. The flour for mollis alsa cannot be made from just any grain. It must be made from the very first ears of spelt wheat, sur, to be harvested in the spring. Special envoys would be sent to select these pristine ears of grain from the field. This connects your urban, temple-bound life directly to the agricultural rhythms that sustain the empire. Once the grain arrives at the Atrium Vestae, the work begins. The process is archaic, deliberately primitive. You do not use the large, efficient donkey mills that grind flour for the city's bakeries. Instead, you and your sisters use small, traditional hand querns. You kneel on the floor, feeding the grains into the top stone and turning it. The rhythmic, grating sound filling the air. It's hard, physical work. The scent of the freshly crushed wheat, nutty and earthy, is a stark contrast to the sterile smell of incense in the temple. As you grind, you must be in a state of ritual purity. You would have undergone ablutions, and you would likely be chanting specific prayers or formulae, dedicating the work to Vesta and other deities of the harvest. Every step is imbued with meaning. This is not just food production, it is the creation of a holy substance. While the grain is being ground, another Vestal is preparing the salt. Like the wheat, the salt must be pure. It is likely rock salt, broken up and pounded into a fine powder. Then comes the mixing. The freshly ground spelt flour and the powdered salt are combined in precise proportions, a recipe handed down through generations of Vestalas. The resulting mixture is coarse, gritty, and intensely salty. It's stored in special clay jars, ready for use in countless ceremonies. Why was this salty flour so important? Molus also was the universal condiment of Roman sacrifice. Before a sacrificial animal, an ox, a sheep, a pig, was killed, a Vestal or another priest would sprinkle a line of this flour along its back, from its head to its tail. This act symbolically consecrated the animal, marking it as belonging to the gods. It was also sprinkled onto the sacred hearth in the temple of Vestae and on other altars as a pure, bloodless offering. In a way, it was a substitute for the sacrifice itself, a humble offering of grain and salt that represented the fruits of the earth and the labor of humanity. Here lies a fascinating and slightly quirky detail about Roman belief. The word immolare, from which we get immolate, literally means to sprinkle with mola. So, when we think of immolation as burning, we're missing the original first step. For the Romans, the act of sacrifice truly began not with a knife, but with the flour you are now making. Your simple, repetitive work is the starting point for almost all major state religious acts. The continued use of this primitive method of flour production is a classic example of Roman religious conservatism. They believed that the old ways were the most powerful ways. The gods preferred the rituals as they were first established, and to change them by, for example, using a modern mill would be to risk offending them. Historians debate the precise origins of this practice. Is it a remnant of a time before leavened bread, a throwback to a more primitive porridge-based diet, or was it always a purely symbolic substance? The debate continues, but for you, the reasons are less important than the act itself, grinding the grain. You feel a connection to the centuries of Vestalas who knelt on this same floor, performing this same task. Your hands, which one moment are tending the ethereal, eternal flame, are the next moment covered in the dust of the earth. It's a grounding, centering task. It reminds you that for all your lofty status and divine responsibilities, the religion of Rome is deeply rooted in the soil. In the cycles of planting and harvesting, you are not just a celestial guardian, you are a sacred baker, a holy miller, providing the essential ingredient that makes communication with the gods possible. Between the high-stakes terror of a dying flame and the solemn grandeur of public ceremony lies the simple, structured rhythm of your daily life. The Atrium Vestae, your home, operates with the precision of a clock. This routine is your anchor, a predictable pattern in a life defined by immense, unpredictable pressures. Your day, as always, begins before sunrise in your cubiculum. The room is not lavish, it's a small, functional space, designed for sleep and quiet contemplation, not luxury. The furnishings are simple, a bed with a wool-stuffed mattress, a small wooden table, an oil lamp, and perhaps a chest for your personal belongings. The austerity is intentional. It's meant to focus the mind on sacred duties, not worldly comforts. You wake, dress in your simple undertunic, and proceed to the bathing complex. The baths in the house of the Vestales are a significant perk of the job. While not as massive as the great public bathhouses of Rome, they are private, clean, and well-appointed, complete with the standard series of rooms: a warm room, tepidorium, a hot room, caldarium, and a cold plunge pool, frigidorium. This is where you perform your morning ablutions, the ritual washing that prepares you for the day. But it's also a place of community. Here, in the steam-filled rooms, away from the rigid formality of the temple, some of the tension of your life can be washed away. It's a space where you can speak more freely with your sisters, sharing quiet jokes or offering words of support. After bathing, undressing in your full Vestal robes, you proceed to a communal breakfast. The meals are simple but plentiful, funded by the state treasury. The diet would consist of Roman staples: bread, cheese, olives, fruit, and watered-down wine. You eat together in a formal dining room, a triclinium, reclining on couches in the traditional Roman style. Seating is hierarchical, with the Vestal as maxima, in the place of honor, and the novices in the lowest ranking positions. Even in this moment of communal sustenance, the structure of your society is constantly reinforced. The bulk of your day is filled with your duties. If you are on watch, you are in the temple. If you are a senior Vestal, you are teaching the novices. If you are a novice, you are in your lessons. There is always a task to be done: preparing for an upcoming festival, cleaning sacred instruments, weaving special fabrics for ritual use, or the ever-present task of making molus alsa. The house is a hive of quiet, purposeful activity. One of the more interesting and debated aspects of your life is your interaction with the household slaves. The Atrium Vestae was maintained by a number of public slaves, assigned to cook, clean, and perform other manual labor. What was your relationship with them? You were their supervisor, their mistress, yet they were outsiders in your sacred space. They were a potential source of gossip, a conduit to the outside world, and, most dangerously, potential witnesses in any future trial. You would have to maintain a relationship that was both authoritative and extremely guarded. A small, humanizing detail of your life is the evidence of personal touches found in the archaeological remains of the Atrium Vestae. While the official life was one of austerity, archaeologists have found traces of a more comfortable existence: fragments of beautiful pottery, personal jewelry, and even imported goods. It seems that while your official rooms were stark, you were allowed some personal possessions to make your life more pleasant. You were, after all, still aristocratic women, accustomed to a certain standard of living. In the afternoon, there might be a period of rest or personal time. You could spend this time in the central courtyard, walking among the statues and fountains, or perhaps you would retire to your room to study, or even to write letters. Your ability to read and write is a given. Your education is far superior to that of most Roman women. This literacy is a tool of your power, allowing you to manage your own property and engage with the world on your own terms. The day ends as it began, with ritual, evening prayers, another simple meal, and a final check on the sacred flame before the night watch takes over. As you return to your small, quiet room in the city outside the walls hums with a life you'll never truly be part of. You are enveloped by the silence of the atrium. Is it a comforting silence or a lonely one? Historians can only speculate on the emotional texture of this life. For you, it is simply the air you breathe. The routine is not oppressive. It is the skeleton that gives your life shape and strength. It allows you to bear the immense weight of your vow, one predictable, ordered day at a time. There are moments when your life, for all its seclusion, becomes intensely public. During Rome's great religious festivals, you and your sister Vestal are not just participants. You are the main event. You step out from the hallowed quiet of the atrium and onto the grand stage of the city, becoming the living focus of the entire community's piety and celebration. One of the most important of these is the Vestal IA, your own festival, celebrated in early June. For a few days, the inner sanctum of the Temple of Vesta, normally closed to all, is open to the freeborn matrons of Rome. They come in droves, barefoot, as a sign of humility and piety, to make offerings and pray to the goddess. You are their host. You stand, robed in your most formal attire, a serene and authoritative presence, as the city's most powerful women file past you to pay their respects. For these few days, your temple is the absolute center of female religious life in Rome. You are not just a priestess. You are the queen of this sacred space. Then there are the grand, city-wide spectacles where you play a key, visible role. At the triumphal procession of a victorious general, you are given a place of honor along the route. As the parade of soldiers, captives, and spoils of wars makes through the city, the general, for all his glory, will bow his head in respect as he passes you. Your presence sanctifies his victory, transforming it from a mere military achievement into a blessing from the gods. At the Lupercalia, one of Rome's most ancient and wild festivals, you have a crucial, if somewhat passive, role. Young, aristocratic men run a frantic race around the Palatine Hill, clad only in goat skins. Playfully striking women, they meet with leather thongs to promote fertility. It's a scene of chaotic, primal energy. While this is happening, you are likely involved in the more sober, preparatory rites, perhaps consecrating the sacrificial goats or the thongs themselves. Your calm, ordered piety provides the sacred anchor for the festival's wildness. Your prominence is a double-edged sword. On the one hand, it is a moment of immense pride. The adoration of the crowd is a powerful affirmation of your importance. You are the symbol of everything right and good about Rome, and the people's reverence is intoxicating. But on the other hand, this is when you are at your most exposed. Thousands of eyes are on you, scrutinizing your every move. A misplaced step, a veil that slips, a moment of distraction. It will all be noticed and gossiped about. The pressure to be perfect is magnified 1,000-fold. A fascinating, unslightly bizarre piece of festival lore involves your role in a ceremony concerning a figure known as the Argi. These were 27 human-shaped figures made of rushes, essentially life-sized straw men. Every year in May, you and the pontiffs would proceed to the Ponte Bellicis, the oldest bridge in Rome. From there, in a solemn procession, you would throw these rush figures into the Tiber River. This is one of the most mysterious rituals in Roman religion, and historians are still fiercely debating its meaning. Is it a symbolic reenactment of an ancient time when human sacrifices were made by drowning? Is it a ritual to appease the river god? No one knows for sure, but imagine the eerie spectacle. You, a figure of life and purity, solemnly casting these straw men into the river, a strange and unsettling duty that connects you to the darkest, most ancient layers of Roman belief. During these festivals, you see the face of Rome in all its diversity. You see the hopeful eyes of the young, the weary piety of the old, the calculating gazes of the politicians using the occasion to be seen as devout. You are the fixed point around which all this human drama revolves. You feel like the calm eye of a hurricane. The experience changes you. It teaches you how to command the public space, how to use silence and stillness as tools of power. You learn to wear your sanctity like a suit of armor, but it also reinforces your separation. After the festival is over, after the last cheer has faded and the last worshipper has gone home, you retreat back into the Atrium Vestae. The gates close, and the noise of the city is shut out. You are left with the silence in the company of your sisters. The public adoration is exhilarating, but it is temporary. Your true life is here, in the quiet, with the endless, demanding flame. The festivals are just a reminder of the world you serve, but can never truly rejoin. The dread is a cold stone in your gut. It happened on your watch. Maybe it was a moment of distraction, a sudden, unnatural gust of wind from the roof opening. Or maybe the wood was damp, refusing to catch properly. The reason doesn't matter. The result is the same. The flame, the eternal heartbeat of Rome, has guttered, sputtered, and died for a few seconds. The inner sanctum of the temple is plunged into an absolute, terrifying darkness, a blackness more profound than mere night. The only sound is the frantic pounding of your own heart. Panic is your first instinct. Terror, and a urge to scream, to run, to deny what has just happened. That you're training, 10 years of it. Kison, you are a Vestal. You do not panic. With trembling hands, you find and light an oil lamp. Its small, profane flame a pathetic substitute for the divine fire that is now gone. The sight of the cold, empty hearth confirms your failure. It looks like a dead thing. A corpse. The soul of Rome has fled, and it was your fault. You and the other Vestal on watch look at each other. a shared, unspoken terror in your eyes. There is no hiding this. It must be reported. The protocol is clear and immediate. You go at once to the Vestal is Maxima. You wake her, your voice shaking as you deliver the three most dreadful words a Vestal can utter. Ignitia ex extinctus est. The fire is extinguished. The news rips through the Atrium Vestae like a shockwave. A palpable sense of doom descends upon the house. Your sisters look at you with a mixture of pity and fear. Pity for the fate that awaits you, and fear for what this omen means for Rome. And for them, you are now a source of pollution, a contamination within their sacred walls. You are immediately isolated, segregated from your sisters. Your very presence now a danger to their purity. The Vestal is Maxima, her face a grim mask, goes to inform the Pontifex Maximus. As the Emperor's chief priest, he will oversee the consequences. The news spreads through the city like a plague. All public business is suspended. The lock works close. The Senate ceases to meet. The city holds its breath. This is a state of emergency, a iostedium, as if the city is in mourning for itself. The blame, the collective terror and anger of millions, is focused on one person, you. Your punishment is swift and severe. The Pontifex Maximus summons you. You are led, not to a grand hall, but to a small, dark, and windowless room within the complex, a space of ultimate shame. You are stripped of your white robes, your veil, your sacred insignia. You are reduced to a simple tunic, no different from a common slave. The Pontifex Maximus, his face concealed by a hood to avoid being polluted by the sight of your failure, takes up a leather scourge. The beating is not about causing injury. It's a ritual of purification through pain and humiliation. Each lash is a reminder of your negligence. You endure it in silence, in the dark. This is the price for letting the fire die. It is a brutal, personal, and deeply shaming experience. A lesser known but fascinating detail is that the punishment had to happen in the dark. This was crucial. The Pontifex Maximus, as Rome's chief religious figure, could not be polluted by looking upon the punished body of a consecrated priestess. The darkness served as a ritual barrier, protecting him from the taint of your failure, even as he was the one administering the punishment. While you are being punished, the painstaking process of relighting the flame begins. The Pontifex Maximus, his hands now ritually cleansed, must create a new verge in fire. He cannot use a spark from another source. He must use the most ancient method, friction, a special wooden board and drill, the Felix arbor, wood from a lucky or fruit-bearing tree, are brought to the temple. He begins the laborious process of drilling the wood, sweat beading on his brow, as he works to coax a single, tiny spark into existence. It's a primal, exhausting act. The entire city waits. When a spark finally catches on the tinder, a collective sigh of relief seems to ripple through Rome. The new flame is carefully nurtured, fed, and restored to the hearth. The heartbeat has returned, but the crisis has left a scar, and you are that scar. Historians debate whether this punishment was a regular occurrence or a rare, catastrophic event. Given the immense pressure and the obsessive care of the Vestales, it was likely very rare, but the procedure was well established. A constant, terrifying what if that haunted every Vestal's watch. For you, the experience is transformative. You have faced the ultimate professional failure and survived. You will be allowed to resume your duties, but you will forever be the Vestal who let the fire go out. The shame will cling to you like a shadow. Every time you enter the temple, you will see the now brightly burning flame and remember the absolute darkness. It's a lesson you will never, ever forget. The rumor has festered long enough. What began as whispers in the courtyard has now erupted into a formal accusation. One of your sisters, let's call her Livia, stands accused of incest, thus, of breaking her sacred vow of chastity. The air in the Atrium Vestae becomes thick and heavy, like the air before a thunderstorm. This is infinitely worse than the fire going out. A dead fire is a crime of negligence. A broken vow is a crime of pollution, a deliberate poisoning of the state's spiritual well. The accusation sets in motion a formal legal process, a trial that is unlike any other in Roman law. The court is the College of Pontiffs, a body of high priests, and the chief judge and prosecutor is the Pontifex Maximus himself, who, in this era, is likely the emperor. This immediately creates a terrifying conflict of interest. The man judging Livia is also the man most responsible for maintaining public order in the Pax Tirum. A guilty verdict is often the most politically convenient outcome. Livia is taken from the Atrium Vestae and held in custody. She is no longer treated as a sacred priestess but as a criminal. The presumption of innocence, a cornerstone of Roman law, feels hauntingly absent. The charge itself is the evidence. The fact that things are going poorly for Rome, a famine in the provinces, a lost battle on the Rhine, is presented as proof of her transgression. She is not just on trial for her own actions. She is on trial for the misfortunes of the entire empire. You and your sisters are called to give testimony. This is a moment of profound moral crisis. You are summoned one by one into a chamber to be questioned by the pontiffs. The room is silent, formal, and intimidating. You are asked about Livia's behavior. Did you notice anything unusual? Did she seem distracted, secretive? Did she ever speak of men, or of the world outside? Every memory you have is sifted for incriminating details. A shared joke is twisted into evidence of a frivolous character. A moment of sadness is reinterpreted as guilt. You are trapped. To defend her too vigorously is to risk being seen as her accomplice. To draw suspicion upon yourself. To remain silent feels like a betrayal. To speak against her, even if you believe she is innocent, might be the safest path for your own survival. The pressure to conform, to give the court the answers it seems to want, is immense. This is how the system perpetuates itself, by turning the Vestals against one another. A fascinating uncool detail of the trial process was the use of torture, but not on the Vestal herself. A Vestal, being a sacred person, could not be subjected to torture. However, her slaves could be. If Livia had a personal handmaiden or a trusted servant, that slave would be put to the question, under excruciating pain. A slave would say anything their interrogators wanted to hear. A confession extracted under torture, however unreliable, would be presented as damning evidence against Livia. Her own household, her own servants, would be turned into weapons against her. Historians still debate the frequency and fairness of these trials. Some scholars argue they were rare events, reserved for moments of extreme state crisis. Others suggest they may have been more common, a brutal to love political enforcement and social control, with accusations timed to coincide with political needs. The evidence is sparse, often written by authors with a strong political agenda, making the truth difficult to discern. You watch the trial unfold from a distance, piecing together information from hushed conversations and official pronouncements. You see Livia brought before the court. She is pale but defiant, denying the charges. But what proof can she offer? Her only defense is her word, her reputation. Against the backdrop of a military defeat or a raging plague, her word seems frail and insignificant. The verdict, when it comes, feels inevitable. The pontiffs, with the Pontifex Maximus leading them, declare her guilty. She is convicted of incestus. The sentence is pronounced, and it is the one you have been taught to fear since you were a child. Mors perhum et unem, death by being buried alive. The city needs a sacrifice to cleanse itself, and Livia is that sacrifice. The trial was never about justice. It was about restoring balance, and the scales must be balanced with her life. The news of the verdict is met with a grim, public satisfaction. A cause has been found for Rome's troubles. A cleansing is at hand for you and your remaining sisters. It is a moment of pure horror. You have just witnessed the terrifying efficiency of the system you serve. One of you has been sacrificed to it, and you know, with chilling certainty, that it could just as easily have been you. The day of the execution is a day of grim and terrible theater. The entire city of Rome participates in the ritual, a collective act of purification that requires your convicted sister, Livia, to be treated as if she is already dead, even while she still breathes. The ceremony is designed to be as psychologically terrifying as it is physically final. The procession begins. Livia is placed in a closed litter, a covered couch carried by bearers. It is sealed and bound with leather straps, so that no one can see in and she cannot see out. The absolute silence from within the litter is one of the most chilling aspects of the procession. She is being carried as if she were a corpse on a funeral bier. This is a legal and religious fiction, because her blood cannot be spilled, as she is a sacred person, and she cannot be executed by normal means. She must be removed from the world in a way that creates no technical impurity, by sealing her in the litter. She is already symbolically in her tomb. The procession moves in complete silence. There is no weeping, no lamentation. The streets, normally a cacophony of noise, are hushed. The people of Rome line the route, their faces a mixture of morbid curiosity, fear, and grim piety. They are not here to mourn her, but to witness the removal of a pollutant. Like watching a surgeon excise a tumor from the body politic, you and your remaining sisters are forced to watch. Perhaps from a high window in the Atrium Vestae, you see the silent litter pass, and you know your sister is inside, alive, conscious, and moving towards her final moments. The procession makes its way to a place just inside the city walls, near the Colini Gate. This place has a sinister name, the Campus S, Celerity US, the evil field or field of crime. Here, a small underground chamber has been prepared. It is not a grave dug in the earth, but a subterranean vault, a tiny, man-made cave. The details of this chamber are precise and laden with horrific symbolism. Inside, the executioners have placed a small couch, a lighted lamp, and a meager amount of food and water, a loaf of bread, a flask of water, a little milk and oil. This is the cruelest part of the ritual. By providing these items, the state maintains the fiction that they are not actively killing her. They are merely consigning her to a chamber with sustenance. And if she dies, it is the will of the gods, a result of her own guilt. They are absolving themselves of the act of murder. She is not being executed. She is being abandoned. When the procession reaches the Campus S, Celerity US, the litter is opened. The Pontifex Maximus, his face veiled, recites a prayer. His voice low and solemn. He is not praying for her soul, but dedicating her to the underworld gods, formally severing her from the world of the living. Then, Livia is unbound. She descends a ladder into the underground chamber. She is now utterly alone, in her own tomb. A fascinating and debated aspect of this punishment is its name. While we call it being buried alive, the Romans used the term humadio, which implies interment. But she wasn't buried in dirt. She was sealed in a room. Some scholars argue this distinction was crucial for the Romans. Another part of the legal and religious gymnastics they performed to avoid the direct spilling of sacred blood. It was a live entombment, not a live burial. The distinction would have been cold comfort to the woman on the ladder. Once she is inside, the ladder is removed. The executioners, who are public slaves, not citizens, place the final stone over the opening and then pile earth on top of it, sealing the chamber and erasing it from the landscape. The field of crime becomes just a field again. The pollution has been buried. What happened inside that chamber is something no one can know, a subject only for the darkest imagination. How long did the lamp burn? How long did the food and water last? The psychological torment of being left in absolute darkness and silence, waiting for the inevitable, is a horror beyond comprehension. For you, watching from afar, the finality of it is absolute. The system has completed its circuit. A crisis occurred, a scapegoat was identified, a trial was held, and the pollution was ritually cleansed. The Pax Deorum is believed to be restored. The city can go back to normal. But for you and your sisters, nothing will ever be normal again. The shadow of that underground room, the memory of the silent litter, will hang over your every action, your every thought. The Campus S Celerity US is not just a place on a map. It is now a landscape within your own mind, a constant, terrifying reminder of the price of a single misstep. You are now in your 30s, a seasoned priestess, in the prime of your life and service. The initial terror and awe have been replaced by a quiet, practiced competence, It is at this stage that you might choose to exercise one of your most unique and significant privileges, writing your last will and testament for a typical Roman woman. This act would be impossible without the consent and supervision of her male guardian or tutor, but you have no guardian. You are legally autonomous, a free agent in the eyes of the law. The decision to write your will is a moment of profound self-reflection. It forces you to confront your own mortality, not in the abstract, terrifying way of a potential execution, but in the calm, practical manner of an estate planner. It is also an act of power. You have likely accumulated significant personal wealth. This could be from your family inheritance, as your father's estate would have been passed down to you directly, or from gifts bestowed upon you by the state or wealthy patrons over your years of service. You are not a pauper priestess. You are a woman of means. You would summon a scribe or a trusted legal expert to the Atrium Vestae. The process is formal and private. Use it with this person, likely in a quiet chamber away from the daily bustle of the house, and dictate your wishes. Who will inherit your property? You could leave your wealth to your birth family, your siblings, or their children. This would be a way of maintaining a connection to the family you left behind, of contributing to their prosperity and legacy even from within the walls of the atrium. It would be a reminder that while you are a Vestal, you are still a daughter and sister of your clan. Alternatively, you could leave your fortune to the College of Vestales itself, a final act of devotion to the institution that has defined your entire adult life. Or you could make bequests to specific friends, perhaps even to a favored and loyal slave whom you wish to grant freedom and a small stipend upon your death. The choice is entirely yours. This act of naming heirs, of controlling your legacy, is a taste of a worldly power that is usually the exclusive domain of men. One of the more curious, undebated details about Vestales and their wills is their role as guardians of other people's testaments. As we've touched upon, the Atrium Vestae was considered one of the safest places in Rome, a divine safe deposit box. Emperors like Augustus and Tiberius, as well as countless senators and wealthy citizens, entrusted their wills to your care. You were the silent keeper of the city's most explosive secrets. But what did this mean in practice? Did you simply store the sealed wax tablets in a secure room, or did you have a more formal, registrar-like function? Historians still ponder the exact mechanics of this unique service. Did you keep a log? Were there witnesses to the deposit? The successful secrecy of the institution means these procedural details are lost to us. As you dictate your own will, you are acutely aware of the irony. You are planning for a natural death, even as you live with the constant, low-level threat of a highly unnatural one. You are surrounded by the wills of the most powerful men in Rome, testaments that speak of their vast estates, their political legacies, and their complex families. And here you are, a woman with no husband and no children, performing the same act, wielding the same legal authority. It is a quiet but powerful subversion of the patriarchal order. The act of writing the will is also a psychological milestone. It marks the midpoint of your service. You have survived the trials of youth, the dangers of public life, and the internal politics of the atrium. You are looking ahead, not just to the end of your 30-year term, but to the end of your life. It forces you to consider what you want your legacy to be. Will you be remembered as a pious servant of the goddess, as a wealthy benefactor to your family, as a stern but fair teacher to the next generation of Vestales? Once the will is written, it is sealed. You might place it alongside the others in your care, a small, personal document nestled among the great testaments of the empire. There it will sit, a silent testament to your unique status, a declaration of your independence. It is a strangely comforting thought. Whatever happens, whether you die peacefully in your bed in 30 years' time or face a trumped-up charge tomorrow, you have had your say. You have put your house in order, in a life of service and submission to divine and state authority. This is one area where your own will is absolute. The years turn as rhythmically unpredictably as the grinding of the sacred grain. You have passed your second decade of service. You are now in your late 30s or early 40s, and your role within the Atrium Vestae shifts once more. You are no longer a student, nor are you on the front lines of tending the flame day in and day out. You are entering your third and final decade of service. You are now a teacher, a mentor, a guardian of tradition. You have become one of the women you once feared and revered as a small, terrified novice. Your primary duty is now the education of the new generation of Vestal S. You are assigned a group of young girls, fresh from their families, their hair recently shorn, their eyes wide with the same mix of confusion and awe that you remember so vividly from your own childhood. It is your job to take these raw recruits and forge them into priestesses. The experience is a strange one. You look at their small, unformed faces and see a reflection of your own past. You remember the loneliness, the overwhelming weight of the rituals, the struggle to memorize the archaic prayers. This memory gives you a capacity for empathy that your own teachers, perhaps, did not have. You can be firm, demanding, because you know the standards must be met, but you can also be kind, offering a quiet word of encouragement to a struggling novice, or a patient explanation of a complex ritual. You teach them everything you know. You guide their hands as they learn to stack the wood on the hearth. You correct their pronunciation as they stumble through the ancient hymns. You show them the precise, graceful movements required for a ceremony. You are not just transmitting information. You are passing on a living tradition, a chain of knowledge that stretches back centuries. You are a crucial link in that chain. This new role gives you a different kind of authority. It is not the raw, public power of a magistrate, but the subtle, profound influence of an educator. You are shaping the future of the Vestal College. The girls you train today will be the ones tending the flame in 10 years' time, and the ones teaching the next generation in 20. The piety and discipline of the entire institution rests on your shoulders in a new way. A fascinating and somewhat speculative area of historical debate is the extent to which the senior Vestal S acted as a governing board for the college. The Vestal as Maxima was the undisputed head, but it is likely she consulted with the senior teaching class, Vestal S, on important matters. You would have been part of the old guard, the keepers of institutional memory, when a difficult question of ritual arose, or a political crisis threatened the college. Your wisdom and experience would have been sought. You were no longer just a servant of the institution. You were one of its pillars. Your daily routine is less physically demanding now, but more mentally taxing. You spend your days in instruction and supervision. You watch the active Vestal S on their watch, offering guidance, ensuring the standards you learned are being upheld. You have become the enforcer of the rules, the embodiment of the institution's discipline. This can be a lonely position. The easy camaraderie you might have shared with your peers in the second decade is replaced by a more formal, hierarchical relationship with the younger Vestal S. They respect you. They may even admire you. But they also fear you a little. You find yourself becoming more like the Vestal as Maxima, more serene, more detached, your emotions carefully concealed behind a mask of pious duty. The 30 years of discipline have done their work. The impulsive, emotional girl you once were has been completely subsumed by the calm, authoritative priestess you have become. You look at the statues in the courtyard, the monuments to the great Vestal S of the past. You once looked at them with a child's awe. Now, you look at them as peers. You understand the long, hard road of their service. You see the dedication, the sacrifice, the immense strength of will it took to complete this 30-year journey. You begin to contemplate the possibility that one day, your own statue might join theirs, the silent teacher for generations of Vestal S yet to come. The thought is no longer intimidating. It is humbling, a quiet acknowledgement of a life given over completely to a singular, sacred purpose. The 30 years of your service are a long, slow river, and from your fixed point on its bank, you watch the landscape of Rome itself change. The stone thresholds of the atrium, once sharp-edged, are now soft and swayed in the middle from the passage of countless feet, your own included. The faces of the novices you teach seem to get younger each year, a sure sign that you are getting older. You have become a part of the institution's geology. a layer of living history. From this unique vantage point, you witness the turbulent, transient nature of the power that governs the world outside your walls. You have seen 3, maybe 4, emperors rise and fall. Each one begins the same way. The new emperor, fresh from his victory, whether in the Senate house or on a battlefield, comes to the temple of Vesta. He makes a great show of piety, offering rich sacrifices, his voice ringing with promises of a new golden age. He looks at the sacred flame with what he hopes passes for genuine reverence, seeking its blessing, its validation. You have seen this performance before. You watch as his likeness appears all over the city. New statues are erected, his face carved in gleaming marble, staring down at the populace with an expression of firm but benevolent power. Coins are minted with his profile. His name is added to public prayers. For a time, he is Rome. He is eternal. But you know better. You have the long view. You see the subtle shifts that escape the notice of the everyday citizen. You hear the change in the tone of the senators who visit the atrium. You see the nervous glances exchanged between officials. Then the whispers begin, quiet as rustling leaves, then growing louder, more insistent. Whispers of a disastrous campaign on the frontier, of a conspiracy brewing in the Praetorian Guard, of the emperor's growing paranoia or decadence. And then, one day, the city awakens to a new reality. The old emperor is gone, assassinated, forced into suicide, or perhaps, if he is lucky, dead of natural causes. His statues are torn down overnight. The air is thick with uncertainty until a new man, the next emperor, emerges, and the cycle begins again. He comes to your temple, makes the same solemn promises, and offers the same rich sacrifices. You greet him with the same serene and practiced piety. This constant churn of power provides one of your most peculiar and solemn duties. You become a witness to the practice of dam adi o memoriae, the damnation of memory. When a hated emperor is overthrown, the Senate will sometimes vote to officially erase him from history. His name is chiseled off inscriptions. His face is removed from public reliefs. His laws are rescinded. You, the guardian of Rome's eternal memory, are called upon to witness its deliberate and violent erasure. You might be asked to perform a ritual to deconsecrate a temple he built, ritually cleansing the space of his tainted legacy. It's a deeply ironic task. Historians still debate the personal feelings of the Vestal during these political upheavals. Were you truly as neutral as your serene expressions suggested? Did you have private loyalties, secret preferences for one imperial dynasty over another? Did a change in leadership cause factions and tensions within the atrium, with some of you connected by family to the old regime, and others to the new? The historical record, written by men focused on male politics, is silent on the matter. It remains a tantalizing question about the inner life of your college. You watch not only men change, but the very stones of the city. You remember a great fire that swept through a whole district, the sky glowing red for 3 nights, the smell of smoke clinging to your robes even within the atrium. You watched from the safety of your sacred ground as a part of Rome burned, and then you watched, for years, as it was reborn from the ashes, grander and more magnificent than before. You saw the Colosseum being completed, its vast skeleton of arches slowly clothed in travertine. You saw new forms built, new aqueducts snaking their way into the city, new temples rising to honor new gods or new, deified emperors who would, in time, also be forgotten. But when you turn away from the window that looks out onto this ever-changing city and walk back into the heart of your world, the Temple of Vesta, everything is the same. The flame burns with the same steady, quiet intensity it had 30 years ago, and 300 years before that. It does not care for the name of the emperor. It does not notice the new buildings. It is oblivious to fires and conspiracies. It only asks for vigilance, for purity, for the steady hand of its guardians. You are the servant of the one true constant in a world of violent, glorious chaos. You are in your mid-40s, the 30 years you promised as a child, a number so vast it was meaningless, is now a finite, tangible reality. The end of your service is on the horizon. For the first time since you were 6 years old, you have to seriously contemplate a life outside the Atrium Vestae. You are on the threshold of freedom, and the prospect is both exhilarating and terrifying. What does freedom even mean? For 3 decades, your life has been one of rigid structure, profound purpose, and immense privilege within a gilded cage. Soon, that caged door will swing open. You will be free to leave, free to marry, free to live wherever you choose. But you will also be free of the status, the reverence, and the sacred purpose that have defined your entire existence. You will become a private citizen again. You find your mind wandering during the long, quiet hours of instruction. You look out over the city from a high window and wonder what it would be like to walk those streets, not as a living idol, but as an ordinary woman. To be able to stop and browse in a market stall, to have a private conversation without fear of being watched, to feel the sun on your face without a veil. The thought of such anonymity is a dizzying luxury. The primary choice before you is marriage. Upon completing your service, you are legally free to marry, and you will not be short of offers. You are a woman of impeccable reputation, from a good family, and, most importantly, you are likely very wealthy. You are, without a doubt, the most eligible spinster in all of Rome. The city's ambitious senators and wealthy equestrians, many of them widowers looking for a prestigious second wife, will be lining up. A marriage to a former Vestal brings with it an unparalleled level of social cash and respectability. You watch the matrons who visit the temple during the Vestal IA, studying their lives. You see their devotion, but you also see the way they manage their households, the pride they take in their children, the quiet authority they wield within their families. You try to imagine yourself in that role, to be a mater familias, the mistress of a grand house, to raise children who will carry on a family name. It's the life you were born for, the one you sacrificed on the day the Pontifex Maximus knocked on your father's door. The chance to reclaim that life, to experience the love of a husband and children, is a powerful pull, but there is another path. You don't have to marry. You are a woman of independent means. You could choose to live out the rest of your days as a respected, autonomous woman of leisure. You could buy a comfortable house in the city, or a beautiful villa in the countryside. You could spend your days reading, managing your estates, and enjoying the company of friends and family. You would be a figure of immense respect, a living legend. People would still point you out in the street, not as a serving Vestal, but as one who had completed the sacred duty. This is a choice very few Roman women ever had, to be old enough, wealthy enough, and respected enough to live an independent life without the protection of a husband was almost unheard of. This path offers a different kind of freedom, not the freedom of family life, but the freedom of self-determination. A fascinating, though poorly documented, question is what the emotional and psychological transition was really like for these women. After 30 years of enforced chastity and living in a communal, all-female environment, how did they adapt to marriage and intimacy? Did they find it joyful? Or was it a difficult, awkward adjustment? The Roman sources, written by men, are silent on this deeply personal aspect of a former Vestal's wife. They are interested in the prestigious marriage contracts, not the human emotions behind them. It remains a profound question of historical empathy. As the final year of your service unfolds, you weigh these options in your mind. The pull of a normal life, the life you were denied, is strong. The desire for a family, for children to whom you can leave your legacy, is a deep, instinctual call. But the quiet pride of independence, of remaining the mistress of your own destiny until the very end, is equally seductive. The choice is a reflection of how your 30 years of service have shaped you. Has it made you long for the conventional comforts and connections you were denied? Or has it forged you into a woman so self-reliant, so accustomed to your own authority, that the thought of submitting to a husband's a pale imitation of the life you've known? The door is about to open. You are the only one who can decide which path to walk through it. The final weeks of your service are imbued with a strange, bittersweet quality. Every action, every ritual, is now tinged with finality. You walk the colonnades of the atrium, and the statues of the former Vestal seem to offer a new kind of message, not one of expectation, but of welcome. You are about to join their ranks, the alumni of Rome's most exclusive sorority. Your last major duty is to oversee the training of your replacement, the young novice who will take your spot in the College of Six. You watch her practice, your critical eye softening with a sense of nostalgia. You see her struggle with the same hymn you once stumbled over, and you offer a quiet word of guidance. You are passing the torch, quite literally, and in doing so, ensuring the continuity that is the very essence of your order. Then comes the night of your final watch. The Vestal Maxima assigns you this one last shift, a symbolic closing of the circle. You enter the small, round temple, the air thick with the familiar scent of sacred wood and ancient piety. The place has been the center of your world for 30 years. You know every stone, every flicker of the shadows on the curved wall. You take your position by the hearth. The flame burns with its usual steady indifference. It does not know or care that this is your last night together. It is eternal, and you're transient. For so long, your identity has been tied to this fire. You have been its keeper, its servant, its guardian. Your purity has fed its strength. Your vigilance has been its lifeblood. Now, that relationship is about to end. The hours of the night stretch out, long and silent. The usual anxieties that accompany a watch are gone, replaced by a deep, meditative calm. There is no fear of the flame dying tonight. You are at the peak of your craft, the master of this small, sacred universe. You move with an economy of motion born of 30 years of practice, adding a log here, adjusting the airflow there. In the quiet, you reflect. You think of the small girl who entered these walls, terrified and alone. You think of the trials, the fears, the moments of profound connection to something larger than yourself. You remember the faces of your sisters, those who completed their service, those who died, and the one who was taken to the campus as Celeritus. You have lived a dozen lifetimes within these walls. A little known but poignant detail of a Vestal's life is that they were, in a sense, married to the city of Rome. Their vow was a form of sacred matrimony. This final watch feels like the last night of that marriage. You are saying a silent goodbye to your spouse of 3 decades. It's a relationship of immense sacrifice and duty, but also one of profound intimacy. No one in Rome knows the city's secret heart the way you do. You have felt its pulse in the flicker of this flame, guarded its soul in the secret chamber below. As the first hint of dawn begins to filter through the opening in the roof, the night watch ends. Another Vestal, younger, her face still etched with the seriousness of her duty, arrives to relieve you. You formally hand over the watch, a simple procedure you have done thousands of times. But this time, it is different. You give her a nod, a silent blessing of it's yours now. You turn and walk towards the temple entrance. You pause at the threshold and look back one last time at the fire. It is a soft, steady glow in the center of the dark room. It is the same fire you have stared at for 30 years, the fire that has been the singular focus of your life. You offer a silent prayer of thanks, the farewell. You have kept your promise. Your duty is done. You step out of the temple and into the cool morning air of the courtyard. The sky is turning from gray to a soft pink. A new day is dawning. For Rome, and for you, for the first time, the sacred fire is no longer your responsibility. The weight is lifted. You feel unnaturally light, as if you might float away. The 30-year night is over. The day of your release is marked by a ceremony as formal and significant as the one that bound you 3 decades ago. The ritual of your departure, your exaugus duratio, is the mirror image of your induction. It is a meticulous, legal, and spiritual process of unwinding the sacred bonds that have defined your life. You are not just walking out the door. You are being formally reborn into the secular world. You stand once again before the Pontifex Maximus. He is not the same man who took you from your family all those years ago. That man is long dead. This is a new Pontifex, perhaps an emperor you have seen rise to power, but he speaks the same ancient words. performing a role that transcends the individual. The Vestal is Maximus Anne's beside you, her presence a symbol of the life you are now leaving. The ceremony is one of release. Prayers are said, not to bind you to the goddess Vesta, but to formally request her permission to let you go. It is an honorable discharge. You have served your term, fulfilled your vow. The contract is complete. The Pontifex Maximus recites a legal formula that undoes the one spoken 30 years prior. Where he once said, Ti capio, I take you, he now says words that effectively mean I release you. You are officially discharged from your sacred duties. The most potent symbol of this transition is your attire. You remove the sacred vestments you have worn for 30 years, the white woolen gown, the elaborate headdress with its flowing ribbons, the suffibulum veil. These are the uniform of a Vestal. You will never wear them again. In their place, you are dressed in the garments of a high-ranking Roman matron. The fabric is likely dyed a rich color, perhaps a deep purple or blue, a stark contrast to the pure white you are accustomed to. This style is fashionable, worldly. Then there is the matter of your hair. When you entered, your hair was cut as a sign of your consecration. Now, as you leave, you are free to grow it again, to style it in the elaborate fashions of Roman noblewomen. It's a small detail, but a deeply personal one. For 30 years, your appearance has been one of austere, uniform piety. Now, you are free to construct a new identity, to present yourself to the world as an individual. Historians debate what happened to the Vestal's sacred garments after they left service. Were they ritually destroyed, preserved within the temple as relics, or was the former Vestal allowed to keep them as a memento of her former life? The sources are silent, but the act of removing them is a clear and irreversible line being drawn between your past and your future. As the ceremony concludes, you are no longer Amata, Vestal Virgin. You are simply Amata, a private citizen, a femina of the Roman Republic. You walk out of the ceremonial chamber and into the main courtyard of the Atrium Vestae for the last time. Your former sisters are there. The active Vestals and the novices look at you with a kind of wonder. You are a success story, living proof that the daunting 30-year vow can be completed. You have made it to the other side. You say your goodbyes. These women have been your only family for 3 decades. You have shared secrets, fears, and a sacred duty that no one on the outside can ever truly understand. The farewells are emotional, but also formal. You are now an outsider. You can never again enter the inner sanctum of the temple. You can never again share in their secrets. A subtle but unbreakable barrier has just been erected between you. Finally, you walk to the great bronze doors of the atrium. They are open for you. Waiting outside is a litter, sent by your birth family, perhaps by a brother you barely know, or a nephew who sees you as a living legend. As you step across the threshold, leaving the sacred precinct, and re-entering the profane world of the Roman Forum, the noise and the smells of the city hit you with the force of a physical blow. It is chaotic, vibrant, and messy. It is the world. Your 30-year service is officially over. You are free. You are now one of the most respected and, in a way, feared women in all of Rome. You are a Vestal as senior, a veteran who has successfully completed the holiest of vows. You are a living monument to piety and discipline. But you are also something much more practical, a very wealthy old gunya, or rather, a mature, single woman with a formidable fortune and an even more formidable reputation. Your first taste of your new life is settling into your own domus. Whether it's a new house purchased with your own funds or a wing of your ancestral family home, it is a space that is entirely yours to command. For the first time, you are the domina, the mistress of a household. You hire your own slaves. You decide the menus. You manage the finances. After 30 years of communal living under a strict hierarchy, the simple act of deciding what to have for dinner feels like a radical act of self-determination. Society treats you with a unique deference. When you attend the theater or the public baths, you are given the best seats, not by law anymore, but by custom and respect. Senators and their wives vie for your attendance at their dinner parties. Your presence at any social gathering lends it an air of immense prestige. You are a celebrity, a spiritual icon wrapped in the intriguing package of a newly available, high-status woman, and the suitors, as expected, come calling. They are not young, passionate poets, but powerful, established men. A senator in his 50s, a widower with grown children, seeks to cap his career with a wife of unimpeachable honor. A wealthy merchant, hoping to climb the social ladder, sees a marriage to you as his ticket into the aristocracy. A retired general wants a calm, respectable partner for his golden years. They send emissaries, offer lavish gifts, and make their proposals through your family. You receive them with the serene, unreadable calm that you perfected over 30 years. You listen to their offers, your mind coolly assessing their motives, their status, their character. You are in no rush. The power dynamic is entirely in your favor. You are the prize. A little discussed aspect of this situation is the social awkwardness it must have created. Here you are, a woman in her late 40s, who has lived a life completely sheltered from men and the intricacies of romantic or political courtship. And now you are thrust into the heart of Rome's ruthless marriage market. How do you navigate this? Your 30 years of piety are your shield. Your reputation is so unassailable that no one would dare to trifle with you. You are treated not as a woman to be charmed, but as a fortress to be honorably besieged. Historians often wonder how many former Vestalists actually chose to marry. The ancient sources love to highlight the prestigious matches, as it reinforced the honor of the institution. The historian Plutarch mentions that very few did, and that those who did oft unlived lives of sorrow and regret, unable to adapt to their new reality. Was this true, or was it a piece of moralizing propaganda, designed to encourage serving Vestalists to remain devout? It is one of the many yet still debated questions surrounding your life. The truth is likely that some marriages were happy and successful, while others were disastrous. You spend your days reconnecting with your family. You meet nieces and nephews who are now grown with children of their own. You are a strange, legendary figure in your own family, Aunt who lived in the temple. They treat you with a mixture of familial affection and profound awe. You also have absolute control over your finances. You can buy and sell property, invest in shipping ventures, lend money to ambitious politicians. You are a player in the economic life of the city. After a lifetime of dealing with sacred duties, the profane but fascinating world of commerce is a new challenge. You are, in a sense, a new kind of woman, a third category that Roman society wasn't quite built for. You are not a maiden, not a wife, not a widow. You are a Vestalist senior. You have the moral authority of a priestess, the legal autonomy of a man, and the social prestige of the highest nobility. You are a retired holy woman, but in the Roman mind, that holiness never truly washes off. You are wealthy, independent, and utterly untouchable. The choice of what to do with the rest of your life is a luxury few have ever known. You stand on the marble portico of your new home, looking out over your private garden. It's quiet here, a pocket of tranquility you have purchased for yourself. The proposals from your many suitors lie on a table inside, sealed tablets of wax, each one a potential future. A life as the respected wife of Senator Cornelius, a life as the powerful matron of General Fabius's clan. They are good lives, honorable lives. They are the lives Roman society understands. You think of the men themselves. They are pillars of the state, men of dignity and power. But when they look at you, you see they are not looking at you. The mother, the woman who has lived and survived a singular existence. They are looking at a symbol, an acquisition. To marry a former Vestal is the ultimate status symbol, a living testament to one's own piety and influence. They don't want a partner. They want a monument for their household. For a moment, you let yourself imagine it. The life of a matron, the sound of children's laughter in the halls, a husband's arm around you in the evening, the bustling energy of a large, important family. It is a powerful, tempting vision. It is the warmth of the hearth, the very thing you dedicated your life to in the abstract. After a lifetime of cold, sacred duty, The appeal of this symbol, human warmth, is undeniable. But then you remember the atrium. You remember the quiet authority you wielded in your final decade. You remember the legal power you held, the ability to write your own will, to own your own property. To marry would be to place yourself back under the legal authority of a man, to hand over the management of your fortune, to become the junior partner in a life you did not build. You think of the flame, the eternal flame of Vesta. It was not a wife to any god. It was not a servant. It was a thing in and of itself, a source of power and light that was complete on its own. It did not need another flame to be whole. Your 30 years of service were not a waiting period. The long, drawn-out preparation for marriage. It was a life, a complete, difficult, and extraordinary life. Plutarch, a wise Greek writer you've read, once observed that the few Vestales who chose to marry after their service often lived lives filled with regret and sorrow, finding it impossible to adjust. Historians will forever debate if he was right, or if he was simply moralizing. But as you stand here, you understand what he meant. How could you, after being the absolute authority on the most sacred matters of the state, be content discussing the price of fish in the market? How could you, after counseling novices and guarding the soul of the empire, happily defer to a husband on household matters? A small, quirky thought enters your mind. Even now, as a private citizen, your word carries a special weight. An oath sworn by a former Vestal is considered almost unbreakable. Your testimony in court would be given near absolute credence. This sacredness has not been washed away. It is a permanent stain on your soul. You are not, and can never be, just another Roman matron. The decision crystallizes in your mind, not with a crash, but with a quiet, peaceful clarity. You have already had the most important marriage of all, a 30-year union with the destiny of Rome. All other partnerships would feel like a pale imitation. You turn from the garden and walk back into your study. You pick up the tablets, the proposals from the great men of Rome. You summon a trusted servant. Send these back, you say, your voice calm and steady. With my deepest respects and my regrets, I am not seeking a husband. The servant nods, understanding in his eyes. He knows he is not just serving a rich woman, but a living legend. You are left in the quiet of your home, a home you owned, a fortune you control, a future you will write yourself. You might become a patron of the arts, a silent partner in political endeavors, a benefactor to your family. You will host salons where the brightest minds of Rome gather. You will be a power in your own right, an anomaly, a testament not to the life a Roman woman was supposed to live, but to the life a woman could live, if she had the will, the courage, and 30 years of unparalleled discipline behind her. The door to the gilded cage is open, but you have not flown into another, larger cage. You have chosen to own the sky. The story is over now. The choices have been made. The 30-year vow fulfilled. In the long, quiet years of a new life stretch out, not in front of you, but within you. Let the details of the narrative begin to soften and fade, like watercolor bleeding into paper. The sharp edges of the forum, the cold stone of the atrium, the heat of the flame, all of it now is just a gentle memory, a story that has been told. Feel yourself drifting, as if on a slow, warm river of time. The anxieties of the young novice, the fears of the accused, the heavy responsibility of the priestess, they are all downstream now. Far behind you, all that remains is the peace of the garden, the quiet satisfaction of a life fully lived on one's own terms. The constant, demanding crackle of the sacred fire softens into a soft, warm glow behind your closed eyes, a gentle candle rather than a demanding deity. The low murmur of Rome fades away, replaced by the gentle splash of fountains in a silent courtyard, a sound that has lulled Vestal to sleep for centuries. It is the sound of continuity, the soft hum of eternity, the weight of the day, the weight of the story. It is all dissolving now, leaving you feeling light and untethered. There are no more duties to perform, no more choices to make. There is only this moment of quiet, this gentle descent into the soft darkness of a well-earned rest. You are safe. You are at peace. You are drifting into sleep. The end of the article. Good night.